Hi, this is Julian for Pro Tools Expert, and in the A-Z of UAD we've reached the letter M, which means Manley. There are two Manley products currently modelled in the UAD lineup. There's the Manley Massive Passive and the Manley Vari compressor. The Manley Massive Passive is an expensive, high-end piece of analogue gear. It's based on a passive design, which probably the best-known passive design is the Pultec. But this follows a similar kind of topology. It's not a subject I spend a lot of time thinking about, but the important things to know about this is that because it's passive, it means that the 4 bands of EQ are in parallel, not in series, which means that any gain change isn't cumulative. So if you introduce a 10 dB boost followed by another 10 dB boost on a particular frequency, you don't end up with 20 dB. Anyway, looking around in here, it's slightly unusual. Because of it's modelled on the hardware, it follows the same design, and because of the way the hardware works, you can't cut or boost off the same gain knob. You can cut or you can boost. So instead of the middle being unity and counterclockwise being cut and clockwise being boost, that's no gain, that's full gain, and you can choose to either boost or to cut. So that's how that works. Also, rather than having a shelf at the low and a shelf at the high end, you've got shelf or bell, parametric if you like, available on every band. Also, if you look at the frequencies, I do like switched frequency EQs rather than continuously variable. I'm not quite sure why, but I do quite like that kind of certain amount of choice being taken away from me. And if it's a good respected piece of gear, then the frequencies have been well chosen. So what's the problem? So here I can have 60 hertz or 100 hertz. I can't have anything in between. And similarly across the rest of these 4 bands, it's 4 bands, 2-channel stereo, 8 bands in total, which you can link or unlink depending on what you want to do. We have a choice of Q available on the bell filters, but also available on the shelves, which is interesting because at higher Q settings, I mean, just look in 7-band EQ in Pro Tools and you'll see that you get, I think it's called a reciprocal dip, and it's a small dip in the frequency just above the corner frequency of the shelving filter, and that's available in either direction, and that's a very nice feature to have. So what does it sound like is the most important thing. It sounds fantastic. Something to be aware of is that this is a very, very greedy, in terms of DSP resources, plugin. It's been meticulously modelled using all the oversampling and all the things that UAD do. But that does come at a cost, and that cost is DSP hit. And in this case, on my Apollo Twin Duo, this means that I'm not sure I can even run 2 instances, actually. But with all the Pro Tools 12.4 stuff that we have now, that's kind of less of a problem than it used to be. So what does it sound like? Well, I thought I'd try it on some piano because I've always found piano to be quite unforgiving, as goes EQ. Inappropriate or bad EQ makes itself known very quickly. And also, pianos are quite tricky through that difficult mid-range region. So here we go. Here's some piano, no EQ engaged.
Under the floodlights, pressed your hand upon my cheek and simply said, just hear me out. Oh, let's open the floodgates, feel the warmth of every tear that brushes past each one I doubt. Catch an eyelash or a star, I wish may conceal the truth. Oh,
And that's an upright piano. It gets a bit dongy like upright pianos do, but it was nicely recorded. And all I've done really, I won't take you exhaustively through the choices I've made, but I've kind of tried to thin out the sort of that thick lower mid range and introduce a little bit of sort of bite to the mid range as well. Both things that with lesser EQs can be quite difficult in my experience. But here we go. This is what it sounds like.
Under the floodlights, pressed your hand upon my cheek and simply said, just hear me out. Oh, let's open the floodgates, feel the warmth of every tear that brushes past each one I doubt. Catch an eyelash or a star, I wish may conceal the truth. Redefining who you are in this depiction of youth.
So there we are. I'm not sure it's that helpful to run that in solo, just because it's the context that matters, but because I'm sure people would like to hear. So there we go. It's really forgiving. You can get away with huge amounts of boost. There are two versions of the Manley Massive Passive. The big difference is, you can tell the difference because it says mastering on the mastering version, and the knob tops are different, but largely speaking it's similar. But the really big difference is some of the frequencies are different, and also there's a different amount of gain available. In the standard version, if you like, there's 20 dB of gain available per channel, but in the mastering version, that's rather less. Let's take a look at that mastering version. So here we are in the mastering version, and you'll see straight away that we've got different knob tops and 11 dB of gain available per channel, and some of these frequencies for the high and low pass filters are different as well. But apart from that, it's broadly similar. A really big difference is that all the controls are stepped, like you'd expect on mastering hardware. Here I've got it just across the master, and just to hear it in its kind of typical usage. The thing that I have found is that because of the hardware design that it's modelling, there's a certain amount of kind of interdependence between the different bands, and you can end up with some quite surprising amounts of EQ on some things, and especially in a mastering application. You think, can that be right? But if it sounds good, it's good. So there we go.
Whilst under the floodlights, pressed your hand upon my cheek and simply said, just hear me out. Oh, let's open the floodgates, feel the warmth of every tear that brushes by.
The fact that it's a passive EQ made me wonder whether or not it was possible to do the Pultec trick, which that's a passive EQ as well. And by cutting and boosting at the same frequency, you introduce some kind of mysterious kind of phase things at the bottom end, and it's a thing that lots of people have done lots of times before. I wondered if it was possible. There is quite a lot of overlap between the neighbouring bands. Unfortunately, they don't quite offer exactly the same frequencies, and because it's stepped, you've got a choice of either 100 Hz or 150, but nothing in between, for example, and same over here. You can't get exactly the same frequency, but I had a good go, and I mean, it's not the Pultec trick as such, but it's quite nice, so I thought I'd show you. And it's kind of reminiscent of it. We've got a boost and a cut. I've balanced it up by ear so that it sounds nice, really. But on roughly the same frequencies on neighbouring bands. And yeah, it kind of works. So, onto the very new compressor. This is all valve, and it's a very classy thing, actually. I thought a good way to get started on this would just be to have a listen to this on some drums. So that's what we'll do. And I mean, what this is it's got a lovely kind of soft smoothness to it. Well, just have a listen, you'll hear. There's an awful lot to get your hands dirty with in here. There's mid-side mode and some quite comprehensive mid-side matrixing on the way in and on the way out, which I won't go into here, but it's very clearly explained in the manual. Something else as well as the inevitable dry-wet for parallel compression, which you find on most things these days, is there's a sidechain filter and also this headroom control, which I thought was very useful because I have found with some compression plugins that I've been putting a trim plugin before and after it so that I can raise the gain going in so that I can get a suitably low threshold or get enough gain reduction happening within that plugin. That's what this does. If you pull it this way, then you're effectively changing the range of this threshold control so that it'll be less prone to going into gain reduction. If you pull it this way, you'll get more gain reduction. And if you want to return it to its default, if you just click on the threshold, it will go back to its default. In this example, I'm pushing quite a lot of compression, so it's all the way up, but I'll just change it while passing some drums and see what it does. There we are. Here it is across the mix bus. I didn't expect to hear a great deal when I put this on, because any smooth compressor put across the mix bus with an appropriately, modest amount of gain reduction shouldn't really draw attention to itself and shouldn't be all that audible. And it's one of those cases of, it's subtle, but if you really listen in. But as soon as I dropped it on, I have to say, it just did a really nice kind of classy something that sounded great. Don't want to sound too subjective in this stuff, but I'd kind of describe it as, it wasn't a gloss. It was kind of like a sort of a depth to the sound that it introduced, and you could just hear it straight away pulling it in and out. So we'll just have a quick listen to this across the master and see what we get.
Was under the floodlights, pressed your hand upon my cheek and simply said, just hear me out. Oh, let's open the floodgates, feel the warmth of every tear that brushes past.
And straight away, there's kind of a thing that happens at the bottom end, just passing audio through this thing, that I just think sounds fantastic. So, Manley, there we go. The Manley stuff, it's all got this elusive thing that I'm finding really quite seductive. I haven't used this stuff very much before, and I can really see why some people, and particularly Russ, likes this a great deal, and I can see why. I can see exactly why. This is an absolute brilliant thing, because it is reasonably light on the DSP. The massive passive is a great EQ that I'm definitely going to use more, keeping in mind the DSP hit is significant, but that's a price worth paying for such a great sounding thing. Anyway, there we go. That's the letter M. I've been Julian, and I'll see you next time.